there's a whole number of things that you've been involved with. Charities, politics, theatre. Would you say writing is your true calling?
Yes, I think at the end of my life now, at the age of 70, writing has given me the most satisfaction and the most pleasure, and is what I've been focusing on the last 10 years in a big way.
Was there a point at which you began to think that maybe this is my true calling? I mean, it's always come in your life, and you know, dramatic as it may sound, in redemptive ways. You know, it's always been that.
Yes, I think there may be a bit of truth in that. I think that it's always a pleasure to return to the writing, and it's always a pleasure to see the effect it has on people and the joy one gets from it. Yes, and the last 10 years, it's frankly almost all I've been doing, other than the charity work and watching cricket.
Right. Would it be fair to say that it's the one thing that you know, that's been relatively free of controversies for you as well? I mean, yes. Controversies followed you everywhere, except that one uproar about shall we tell the president? Did you, you know, do you remember that phase? Do you remember thinking about that book and thinking about the story? And did you ever anticipate there would be such a huge uproar over it?
Well, only in the United States. There was no uproar anywhere else,
yeah.
And even that was fairly curtailed. No, because the owner of the publishing company, Viking, Tom Ginsberg, was a close friend of the Kennedy family, and he would never have bought it if he thought there was going to be any trouble. So we were all a bit surprised by it.
Right. Did you ever meet any member of the family
No.
later on? Nothing. None of that. Right. Over the past few years, you know, a couple of your books, Prison Diaries, Parts of Glory, have received this sort of critical acclaim that you know, that has sort of eluded your books. Do you see a change in? Do you yourself see any sort of change in your writing from the earlier years to now? Is that?
It's a very interesting question, because you're quite right. The French have now decided to give me an award. Twice in the last 2 years they've given me awards for Paths of Glory and Prisoner of Birth as a writer, which I've never had before. I've always been called a storyteller, which is what I am. Yeah. I think one of the problems with being popular, one of the problems with selling millions of copies, is that the critics find it very difficult to say, oh, by the way, he or she can write as well. Many great writers over the centuries have suffered that, and then later in life, or even after their death, someone suddenly says, well, not bad. And the reason they say, well, not bad, is because they go on selling. You know, the French gave no credence to Dumas while he was alive, and still people are reading The Count of Monte Cristo.
So, but do you personally think that these two categories, you know, a page turner and a mass read, and critically acclaimed, do they have to be mutually exclusive? I mean, is there?
They shouldn't be. You're quite right. They shouldn't be. You've got it 100%. Look at Arcane Orion. He was both. He was a brilliant writer and a brilliant storyteller, but didn't get recognized worldwide. Graham Greene in my own country didn't win the Nobel Prize because he wrote things called entertainment, and that was considered down market. You're 100% right. People who are good writers should be judged for that. People who are good storytellers should be judged for that. And if you can put the two together, as Dickens clearly did, as many people have done in the past, they should be respected for that. Some people write books that win Nobel Prizes and nobody reads them. I mean, I've never got to the end of Ulysses. They keep telling me it's a work of genius, but I can't handle it. Some people obviously can, and it clearly is a work of genius. But I think the point you're making is, why should they be separated from each other?
Okay, you know, coming back to what I was asking you earlier, do you yourself perceive any change in your writing, or do you think it's the perception of the critics themselves that have
I think I am more mature. I think I'm a better craftsman, which is why I rewrote Cain and Abel.
Right, you did.
After 30 years, 84 reprints, I thought, I'd like to look at this again. And it ended up 7,000 words shorter, despite the fact that I added 27,000 words. So, and I feel at the end of that, the answer to your question is yes, I'm a better craftsman now. I'm no better a storyteller. They still stop me in the streets and say the best book you ever wrote was not a penny more, not a penny less, when I was as immature and naive as you could be about writing. So in the end, the reader is more interested in a damn good story.
Sure. What are your writing habits like? Do you have any rituals or any superstitions while writing?
I'm very disciplined. I rise at 5:30 in the morning, start work at 6, go 2 hours, take a 2-hour break, go from 10 until 12, take a 2-hour break, go from 2 until 4, take a 2-hour break, from 6 until 8, go to bed at 9:30, 10, up again at 5:30. That for me is sacrosanct. All my pencils have to be in a straight line. I have an hourglass that my wife has specially made for me so that I can't cheat on the time. I like the desk to be absolutely neat and tidy, and I like total silence. I have a lovely home in Mallorca in Spain, and it overlooks the sea, but it's soundproof. You can't hear a thing. It's absolutely silent.
And you still handwrite?
Still handwrite every word. I can't use any of this wonderful machinery. My wife can use anything. She's got the latest Apple and is doing all her stuff. I can't even turn the damn thing on because you've got to press so many buttons to. But so I just handwrite every word, and I like it because the movement of the hand across the page allows you to think about the next sentence. So I'm not going to become a machine person.
Do you do a lot of rewrites? Do you let people see your work while you're writing it, or?
Two good questions. I don't ever let anyone see it. I do about, the last book was, Only Time Will Tell, was 14 rewrites before I showed it to my agent, and that would have been about 9 months and about 1,000 hours before anyone is allowed to see it.
Wow.
Because I always say to when young people in India come to talk to me about writing and about wanting to be writers, the first draft, don't think you've finished, you've started. It's nothing more than a start. It's damned hard work. You go back to it again and again and again before you dare to show it to anyone.
What is your relationship like with editors? Has it always been nice, or was it?
I had the great privilege of being edited by J.D. Salinger's editor, Cork Smith.
Yes.
They're great teachers, really. They sit there and say, I would like more of this or less of that, or we can see a way around that. They don't write a word. They just talk to you. And if you get a good one, they see your weaknesses and strengths and play on them. So my current editor is a woman of my own age, and she brings to it a woman's view, which I'm always fascinated. You know, I finished the book and I think, there, I finished, hand it in. And she says, oh, but you must remember that women think this way. And so she brings a great strength to the advice.
That's lovely. The section of your life is chronicled in the prison diaries. But would you think of writing a full-fledged autobiography at any point?
Not really. I think you'll find this set of 5 books, the Clifton Chronicles, is going to be fairly autobiographical. Already the critics are saying that Harry Clifton has a lot in common with me, and I'm going to take him through from 1920 till 2020. So I'll be able to use the things I've learnt over the past 70 years, but I've decided now in book 2 to make him a writer, so that I will be able to bring to the second book my experience of trying to get your first book published, finding an agent, listening to film people, having an editor, all of that, which I find people are fascinated by. And I've never seen a book that actually describes the process a young person goes through when wanting to get a book published.
Yeah. But why would you make this choice of having a fictionalized autobiography rather than a non-fiction?
Well, I think the Prison Diaries, as you rightly point out, were fairly strong on autobiography, and I felt when I'd finished those 3 that I wanted to get back to fiction. That's what I do, and I've set myself this task of doing 5 books in 5 years. So I don't know what I'll do after that, but the next 5 years will be dedicated to the Clifton Chronicles. Yeah,
well, I remember reading somewhere that before you started on the Clifton Chronicles, Simon Kerslake was a character from First Among Equals that you related with. Can you give me some other instances where physical experiences or emotional experiences have found their way in your fictional books?
Well, in the latest book, Only Time Will Tell, I would think Maisie is very like my mother. If I am like Harry, Maisie is very like my mother. And there's a dear old character called Old Jack Tar. Is based on a man I have known for many, many years, but kept very secret about his life. He never told anyone. Suddenly, at the age of 90, decided to write his autobiography. And some amazing stuff came about what he'd done in the Second World War. So I went to see him and said, I hadn't realised you'd done all these things. So I like to talk to real people. I like to talk to people who've had experiences and done something strange or wonderful, and try to get it into the book in its own way.
Have you ever consciously weaved your political ideas or your ideologies into your fiction?
That's dangerous. I wrote a book many years ago called First Among Equals, the story of four men who want to be Prime Minister. It would have been very dangerous for the reader to know who I supported. So no, I try very, very hard to remain neutral.
Didn't you support Simon Kerslake?
Well, that's a very good question. I did, but I thought the tale was better with the other, I'm not going to give too much away, with the other man winning. I just thought it worked better.
Right.
Because you can never tell where it's going, and that's where I think it went.
Right. Your friends have stood by you through all your trials, and your family has stood by you. And as of your fans going by the sales. But have you received any, when you were going through difficult times, have you received any letter from fans who were disappointed in you or judged you in any way? Has that ever happened to you?
Not fans. I mean, I think I lost 2 or 3 friends who walked away, but they were clearly not real friends, whereas 99% of people, real people like Margaret Thatcher and John Major, all my real friends, stood absolutely loyally, you're quite right, 100% loyally by me. Never had problem with the fans. They don't seem to be that interested. The press seem to be more interested than the fans.
So no letters from readers wanting to know about your personal life or judging you?
No, not judging me, no. That's not their style. That's
or maybe even supporting you, and did you receive any?
Wonderful support. Wonderful support, and wonderful friendship, and wonderful keep going, we want more books. Yes, got a lot of that.
I remember you saying somewhere that when you wrote Not a Penny More, Not a Penny Less, you had no idea that it would be such a huge success, and you couldn't tell that, you couldn't tell why it was. Over the years, do you have a better understanding of why your books work in the way they work?
I can answer that question directly because so many people in India say to me it's still their favourite book, Not a Penny More, Not a Penny Less, despite the fact I've been writing for 35 years, obviously a better craftsman than I was when I was 34 years old. And I think it's because people love a story. So I think the answer to your question is, first and foremost, they love to be told a tale which will grip them and hold them. But by the way, it doesn't matter how much craftsmanship you have, how experienced you are. If you can't do that, then you will never do it. So those people who love the first book don't seem to notice that it's actually quite a naive piece of writing, quite an immature piece of writing compared with, say, Only Time Will Tell.
Yeah.
But they don't seem to care.
Sure. But what about the fact that you've had such a diverse bank of readers? You've been successful in India, which is a different culture and different society. You've been successful in the West. What do you make of that? And
well, there's no explaining that. You can get countries where no one reads you at all. For instance, I'm very well read in France and Germany, but not in Italy. So there's always places where they've still missed you and you still got to get to them. Sure. The Indian phenomenon I don't understand. I have never worked it out. How a book can go to #1 in one day is beyond me, and has even shocked the British. I've been speaking to the British press this morning. I've been addressing the question. They are just puzzled why, with all the authors there are in the world, Only Time Will Tell has gone to #1 in one day. I wish I could answer the question. I think the Indian people as a whole are aspirational. They wish to achieve. They love a tale, a story about coming from where they are and getting to another place. That's my conclusion.
Yeah, and they're very loyal readers.
Intensely loyal. I mean, it's like being a pop star, but nowhere else in the world. It's like being a pop star here.
Okay, I want to ask you a little bit about your reading habits. What do you like to read, and how's that changed over the years?
I love the old storytellers. I love Scott Fitzgerald, Steinbeck, of course Shakespeare. I go to the theatre twice a week. The week before I came here, I saw Peter Hall's production of Twelfth Night, which was the 19th time I've seen Twelfth Night. So I love Shakespeare, such a great story. I love Dickens. I love The Count of Monte Cristo. I love Dumas. I like really good storytellers. And if you call quite recently, 10 years ago I got introduced to Arcane Orion and felt the same way, that wonderful gift to tell a story, but also write beautifully.
So you're more of a classics reader. Do you read any of the contemporary stuff as well? Is that?
I do if it's advised. If someone rings me up, or a friend who I trust and like and admire says, Jeffrey, you must read this, I will read it immediately. I'm currently reading The Hare with the Amber Eyes, which I think is quite outstanding, because I love collecting. I've always been a collector of art, and this is the story of a Frenchman who collects during his lifetime, and I'm finding it fascinating.
Well, well, you've collected art, and that's been one of the things you've done. What about books? Do you collect books as well? Is that something?
Yes, I collect first editions. I think I have every Charles Dickens first edition. I have a vast library of first editions, which has been fun collecting over the years, because sometimes you can find them in funny little bookshops in the middle of back streets where you would not expect to find anything, and you search around and there suddenly is A Tale of Two Cities first edition.
What about theatre? Is that something you want to go back
my
to?
First love.
Do you want to do more of that? And I mean, you're tied up writing this book over the next 5 years, but
I invest a lot in the theatre. I own 50% of Greece, 25% of The Sound of Music, 25% of Chicago.
Yeah.
So the money I make on the books I often put back into the theatre. Lots of it loses, by the way, but I love backing the theatre. So a lot of it loses.
But what about creative involvement? I mean, you've acted, you've done all of that. So is that something you want to go back to?
Well, if I could get one of my books made into a film and someone offered me a small part, I would take it seriously. But no, the concentration is on these 5 books. The focus is on these 5 books. And because of my age, to try and make it the best thing I've ever done in my life.
What is the one part out of all your books, I mean, top of your mind, that you'd want to play if you were offered?
I'd love to be young enough to play both Cain and Abel. I'd love to. I mean, the battle we had over who would play those parts in the miniseries was amazing. Everybody asks me on every film, but I would answer you and say I'd love to play George Mallory. I think Paths of Glory, the critics think it's the best thing I've ever written.
Sure.
But I think his story is so romantic. In 1924, to want to be the first man to climb Everest and not even tell your friends, just quietly go about it and do it, and then fall in love with the most beautiful woman and have to decide which of those two was going to dominate his life. Was he going to have one more attempt at climbing to the top of Everest, or was he going to stay with this beautiful woman?
There's so much you've done in life. Whatever you've been interested in, you've gone ahead and done it. Is there still something that you haven't tried and you really want to try?
I have failed to open the batting for England against India. I have failed to captain England. I have failed on the cricket field completely and hopelessly. And I am in envy of any person who achieves it. I shall be there today watching India versus South Africa because I love the game. And these two teams are so clearly, very closely fitted. It's very different types of teams.
And I read somewhere that you thought they could make it to the finals, and that would be...
I think they're the natural finalists. They're the 2 best teams in the tournament. That doesn't mean it will happen, because with the quarters, the semis and the finals, someone may have a freak match and go through, but in theory they're the 2 best.
And there have been lots of freak matches. Yesterday was a freak match.
Well, we beat South Africa and we lose to Bangladesh. There have been a lot of freak matches, and be warned, there could be more. And the problem for the Indian people is they love this game so much. It's such a religion that if they fail at any stage, it's going to break the hearts of this nation.
That it will. The game of cricket is changing, it's evolving. Does it bother you that a lot of its traditional elements are sort of endangered?
Yes. I'm a lover of test matches. Not of 2020. I'll bear the one-day game. But for me, cricket is VVS Laxman and Rahul Dravid surviving all day against the Australians and then the next day winning. A test match is a real match. And I'm afraid we're moving away from that. But that could be just because I'm old. The young love the 2020. That's fine. I don't. I think it's like school playground cricket, trying to knock the ball out of the ground. Well, that's not me. I'd rather see Rahul Dravid quietly move his shoulders and the ball somehow, I don't know how it happens, glides to the far boundary, because he has such grace and style. And then I love to see Sachin Tendulkar's concentration. You better get me out. You can see it in his eyes. You better get me out, because I'm not going to give you my wicket. I love that. And when I watch him this afternoon, he will look at them and he will, you've got to get the bastard out. He's so good.
Well, yeah, here's hoping. Okay, one final question for you. Well, not a serious question, but if you had to answer this, while I'm asking, who is Jeffrey Archer?
I don't think you ever know yourself until you get to the end of your life. I'm now far more relaxed than I ever was. I'm enjoying my writing far more than I ever was. But it doesn't stop me wanting to go on achieving. And I say to young people who are watching this, believe in yourself and go for it, and don't let people get you down.
Who did Jeffrey Archer want to be? Do you remember?
Oh, Sachin Tendulkar, please.
Right.
But he once said very kindly to me, I remember he once very kindly, he said, I wish I'd written Cain and Abel. Which was a very kind thing to say, because he knows, they all know, that cricket team know how much I love them and how much...
I'm sure he meant it. He's an avid reader of yours. So.
Yes, he is. I'm sure he meant it, but it was so touching. So touching.
Well, have fun watching the match.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.